Hello everybody, my name is Farmer Phil and today we're in Banbridge in Northern Ireland.
Like the concrete cow.
It's a bit like milking cows nearly.
Nearly now, nearly is good, nearly is good.
And we're up here to look at a biodigester. We're here with Carbon AMS, we're here with Rian and Matthew, and they're going to show us around the operation of the plant up here and just general talk about biodigesters and anaerobic digestion and anything and everything that comes.
We'll try our best on it, yeah.
Give us a brief rundown of the plant that's here.
Yeah, so we're at the Carbon AMS Banbridge AD plant, so it's a 500 kilowatt electrical AD plant, fully agricultural, so all we feed here is grass, silage, cattle slurry, a bit of farmyard manure and whole crop rye at times, and maybe some beet, depends on the year and what we've available to us locally, I suppose. So this plant was built in 2018. It was commissioned in 2019. It was actually built by ourselves. My former company, EirCode Engineering Solutions, we built this plant, and in 2022, EirCode Engineering Solutions merged with two other companies to form Carbon AMS. The plant was built by an investor, so the farmers here, the guys had a herd of dairy cows, and they went down with TB. I suppose they'd figure out what they're going to do next. The guys were getting older and they were looking at other options, and AD came up as a good one for them. So they've about 600 acres here of prime land. So an investor came in, leased the site off them for 20 years, built the plant and employed us to operate and manage the plant. Advise the guys here what to do every day, advise them on feedstocks, advise them on nutrients, do the maintenance, operations, all that kind of thing.
So then the farmer then, he supplies the feed for it and operates it.
Yeah. So he comes in here every day in the morning. He fills up the solid feeder here with silage and all the solid feed stocks. He fills the pre-pit here with the cattle slurry. He'll do his bit of maintenance checks, so he'll run around and do the basic maintenance, grease and checking everything's working okay. And then he'll do the rest, so growing the crops, harvesting the crops, putting in silage pits, bringing the slurry up from the local beef farm here, and bringing the digestate away and spreading that again.
He's getting paid for the feed that's going into it and getting paid for operating the plant.
Yeah, so he gets paid for every tonne of feedstock that goes in, including the slurry, silage, whole crop, whatever it is. He gets paid for his maintenance, so he gets a salary for the year for doing the operation of maintenance, and they get a site lease for the site every year as well. So the site is about 6 acres in total here.
So he's the farmer's three sources of income from the AD plant being on his farm.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it's a guaranteed income from every year. So work all year round, you're paid every month on the dot, and it gives great cash flow for the likes of finance, machinery or all that kind of thing. It's
a bit like milking cows nearly.
Nearly now, nearly is good. Nearly is good. So we're up to silage pits here. As I said, there's 600 acres of land on this farm here. It's just about enough to feed one of these 500 kilowatt AD plants. So this is the main crop we grow here is grass silage. We grow probably 85% of our feedstock here is grass silage. So as you can see, there's a kind of a myth out there that can be any old grass silage, rushes, docks, whatever you name it. But for us, I suppose it's a concrete cow, and you have to feed it like a cow. You have to feed it the best quality diet that you can, and also chop it as fine as you can. Yeah. So the idea of coming in here with wagons, and stones, especially with the wagons, is a disaster. So we chop it as fine as we can. Here, the guys actually feed this silage to the cows as well down below. Okay. So it's not chopped just as fine for AD, but really as fine as we can, because the way the bugs work in the digester, they eat from the two sides like a piece of pasta. They eat from the two sides in. Yeah. So the shorter it is, the quicker they get through it, and the more they can eat.
More they can digest and get out of it.
The thing about it is these plants were built as so they're 500 kilowatt output. Matthew will explain what that means, but the way that there was 500 kilowatts needed 500 acres, and it was the 500 acres to feed it, whereas what they didn't think about is the stuff that comes out the back end. So the slurry or digestate that comes out the back end is very rich in different nutrients and stuff, and it requires more land to take it. So 500 kilowatt might need 500 acres to feed it, but it might need 600 acres to take the nutrients at the back end.
Okay, so that's like your nitrogen derogation and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and P is a big thing.
P is a big thing up here in the north.
Yeah, we'll get into that again.
Yeah, so then for the silage to stay there, so you're talking as good a quality stuff as you can make. So you're talking, 72, 73.
Oh, 80. If we can get 80. It, 75 plus.
So you're looking for the best, the creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme, yeah. So leafy, the really good dairy cow silage.
So would they be doing 3 cuts of grass or 4 cuts of grass to feed it?
Yeah. You get a good first, second and third cut, and fourth cut is always wet, but generally high quality, so it's worth taking, and it helps in your first cut in the next year. You're not having a big bulk of old grass.
Because the land base, so the land base here for feeding the plant is mostly grass?
Nearly all, bar the bit of whole crop rye. Yeah. We grow a bit of rye. It's handy for ploughing in the solids. So as part of our reseeding plan, we put in a crop of rye. Rye is a really good crop. You get good yields, good biogas returns. It's harvested whole crop in July, like, so it's it's a good crop to get. And then we just plough in the solids that we see after a while into that ground, and then put it back into grass again.
Yeah. So then there always has to be silage available to feed this. So that's the 2 pits here.
2 pits here. We've one down below, and at times we'd purchase maybe 5-10% of what we need for a bad year if we go through too much. So the difference, the quality piece, I suppose, is one really important one. Like, and when we feed really good quality, take first cut, like the creme de la creme, we could be down at about 28 tonne a day of silage in the feeder. Yeah. When we feed maybe a rougher type third cut or maybe a wet fourth cut, you could be anywhere up to 36 tonne a day. Oh. So like 7 tonne a day, 8 tonne a day difference for the exact same output. Yeah. Like, silage is a dear enough commodity. Yeah. You really have to get the quality piece in. Yeah. It's all about feeding less and get more out. Yeah. That's certainly the concrete cow. Yeah, we head for the feeder now. Yes, this is a solid feeding system here. So it's a gyve feeder, but it looks more like a muck spreader and acts more like a muck spreader. So you have a hydraulic pack on the back that pushes this door forward here, that white line that you see up on top.
That's the line, so that's all pushing it towards the back. Yeah,
push towards the back. And it's the same as the muck spreader on the back here. You have basically flails, or cutters we call them, that spin here and flick the silage down into this auger here in the bottom. That auger brings it across in here into this feeding system. This is something we've installed in all our plants, and we will going forward. It's a Wangan biomix. So basically what it does is it takes the hot digestate from the primary digester into this box here and mixes the liquid with the solid feedstocks going in with the silage.
Oh, okay.
For 2 reasons we do it, I suppose. It makes it a lot easier mixed inside the digester. Yeah. So when it goes in as a liquid rather than a solid will tend to float to the top, whereas a liquid will stay mixed. And also, I suppose, for the temperature in the tank, when you're feeding in silage at 8 degrees, Christmas time could be 4 degrees. Yeah. It's going in at maybe 45 degrees. It helps to that shock inside the digester.
So it's just winding into that.
Yeah.
And then it's just pumping out slurry to be mixed in to the first digester.
It's fully automated, so the way we would do it here, we feed every 20 minutes. Yeah. So the system starts up and goes through a cycle and feeds the silage in. It feeds about 800 kilos every time.
800 kilos every 20 minutes.
Yeah, roughly. It depends on how we get off the day. If there's an issue somewhere along the way, we can speed the feeder up or speed it down. We've installed lots of different machinery over the years, different brands, different makes. And most of the biogas machinery comes from Germany. Yes. And they're the kings of biogas. Like, they started it all off. And the machine is really good, like, there's no doubt about it, but they were all designed for maize. Yeah. And maize is completely different to grass. So what we found was it just blocked everywhere. It just jammed up when they said, oh no, we feed grass in Germany. We said, that's different grass in Ireland. Irish grass is a completely different grass. That's why everyone comes here to test machines. So we had to make a few adaptations, but since we got that sorted, it's worked really well.
So then the silage is not chopped. It's just kind of loosened up with augers, augered in. It's mixed with slurry from the first digester, and then it's augered into...
Pumped. So this pump here, pumped up into the primary digester. So them 3 pipes up there you see. The pipe on the outside is for the slurry, we'll show in a second. The pipe in the middle is for the solid feedstock, and the pipe on the left is for the gas that's coming back out.
Slurry that's coming into that is from the primary or the secondary?
From the primary,
So it's pumped from there, back into here,
and back
pumped
in
up.
Again.
Back in with the feedstock.
Yeah. It works. I suppose another reason we went for it was with some of the original feeders, they fed with an auger directly into the tank, which needs to be above the tank. And the way the site levels are here, you want to be up the back, it'd be a bit of a disaster. So we can pump it up from anywhere here. We can feed that tank. We can also feed into this tank here as a primary. Yes. So if we ever decide to extend this plant on, we can just swap the feed.
Swap the feed. It's set up for it.
For that. Yeah. We've never done it yet, but you can always do it. Yeah. The only thing that isn't automated is this thing here. Everything is automated, so if anything goes wrong, if we get something blocks or something jams, we get an alarm with the phone. We can log in from Sligo. The lads, the operators here, get the alarm. They come up and have a look, see what's going on. So you have 24-hour access. We have cameras. Really, it makes life a lot easier. We have a manual control just in case. If you're doing anything here locally, that you're a bit of a jam on here, you can press a button here and do whatever you need to do.
Yeah. How much silage would it take in a day then?
Yeah, so we fill that. Day? Yeah, we fill that twice a day. So the feedstock here at the minute is about 35 tonne a day of grass silage. Yes. And about 20 cubic metres of slurry. That's where at the minute. When we feed rye, we add that in with the grass, so it could be 30 tonne of grass and 5 tonne of rye. It's averaging around that, and that could give us 500 kilowatts of biogas every hour.
We test the silage as well weekly, so we know roughly the quality of stuff that's going in, and we can make the feedstock from that.
So you adjust depending on the quality of the feeds of the silage or rye that's going in, then you adjust the quantities to get the output.
Pit silage, it doesn't change that much, so we know for 3 months of the year or whatever it is that's going to be the feedstock, and it gives us a lot of security. That's the value in the agri AD, with the silage.
It's a
consistency supply
feedstock.
As I said, it was a concrete cow, and it literally is a concrete cow that it gets sick, it gets upset. You need to keep consistent, feed it at the same time every day, give it the same ration every day. If you're going to bring in fodder beet in tomorrow morning, you just don't throw in 5 or 6 ton. You give it a while to ramp up. When we're changing from one silo to the next, it takes us about a week of ramping across to make sure we don't
before you run out of one, you'll be feeding in a bit of the other, and then once you're running out of this, you're nearly all on that, so you're just switching it over.
It's an animal, and I suppose I'd always go back to, if you take 2 handfuls of grass silage out of a pit, generally there's not much of a difference in them. If you went into a waste bin or something and took out 2 handfuls of waste, they're going to be completely different. And at that type of AD is just a bit more finicky, and for us, you're operating a number of plants, it's so much easier to have consistent feedstocks, consistent everything.
Look at where the slurry and that goes in.
They have a farm just below here, below the site, so they bring the slurry up in a tanker and just use the top spout to drop it into the pre-pit here. So this is the pre-pit here.
This is the tank here, basically, that feeds
slurry, So there's about 2.5 days worth of slurry here, 6x4 tank. It takes 20 cubes a day. It's fed 4 times a day. It's fed in through that, you see on that first black pipe going up there, and that flow meter. So that tells you how much is going up there, and then feeds back into the whole system, so we know how much slurry is going in.
The farmer just has to keep
just keep it topped up.
Just keep this topped up with fresh slurry to be fed into it.
And it's a beef farm down there as well, so it's good quality slurry, high dry matter slurry.
So the slurry off a beef farm will be considerably better than a dairy farm then?
Yeah, from a perspective of the dry matter. So the dry matter in slurry is very important from a gas yield, because it's the solids where the gas can be got. So I would say you're looking at maybe 8% dry matter slurry in a beef farm, and the dairy farm could be 4 or 6 depending on the washings. So the best thing would be to keep washing separate as well, so that the dry matter doesn't
and isn't an issue. Now I heard this, but with the dairy washings, if there's antibiotics going through the dairy washings, it'll upset the stomach.
That will too.
This plant is probably oversized for what we're doing, but that's the way we build every plant, because you have a bit of flexibility going forward. We don't know what we're going to do, so we could probably double the output here using the same tanks we have. So at the minute, 80% of our gas is being produced in the primary tank. And it's a 22 by 8 size, so 22 metres in diameter, 8 metre high digester. In that tank, then there's 3 mixers. You can see one up there. So they're paddle mixers.
Oh, there.
Yeah. So basically like a long shaft going in with big spoons on it. And they're turning really slowly and mixing it all through. They're essential, we feel, for grass silage. It pulls any layer from the top down to the bottom.
You're taking the crust off it, basically. Stopping it from forming.
Because if you get a crust, your gas won't get through, and everything's kind of tricky. Once the feedstock goes in there, it's heated up to about 48 degrees. That's the temperature we run at, between 48 and 50. And we'll go through how that happens in a bit. But heat up that temperature. It's mixed around with them paddles, and it spends between 35 and 40 days in each tank until it comes out the far side. And I suppose we do tests on the far side to make sure we've no energy left, and we don't, because our residence time is so long. If you have longer silage, you need to leave it longer in the tanks, because it takes longer for the bugs to get through it. If you have shorter, you get less time. So silage is probably one of the trickier feedstocks to feed, in that it takes that bit longer to break down, because there's so much of a lignin shell on it. We'll go inside to the pump room now.
It is warm in here.
In here now, in the pump room, this is the best spot for hiding on the plant. If you want to hide for a while, it's nice and warm and no one will find you.
So you wouldn't be long falling asleep in here?
No. The heat is coming from the digesters. You see the pink wall, that's not something we've done on purpose, that's the insulation that's in the tank. So there are 300mm concrete reinforced steel tank, and then you have 150mm of external insulation outside to keep the tank warm. So in here between the 2 tanks, and this is where all the action happens, I suppose, in terms of transferring liquid and that kind of thing. So you see this system here that comes outside the digester through the flow meter and into that pump. That's pumping out to the feeding system that we just seen a few minutes ago.
Okay.
So that's going into the feeding system and back up again into the digester. That works off chimes inside, so every time that we set it come on, that pump will come on. We have a pneumatic valve there for safety, just to stop any leaks coming through, that works off the air compressor. And we have a flow meter here, so depending on the dry matter of our digester inside and dry matter of the feedstocks going in, we can up and down the rate of digested that's going out mixing with the slurry inside. Or if that pump is getting worn and it's finding it hard to get it away, we can slow it down a little bit and allow it to get the feedstock through. So And also if there's any blockages, we get an alarm from that before we need, before we do any damage. This pump here then controls the level of the digester in the primary. So we have a pressure sensor in that hole there. We work off 150 mil differential on top. So basically at 6.9 meters is our high limit, and 6.75 the pump is our low limit. Yes. So when it hits 6.9, this pump will come on and transfer the liquid across to the secondary digester until the level hits 6.75, and it'll stop again. Have backup safety switches just in case it ever for some reason gets really high. We have another safety switch that gives an alarm. As soon as that alarm is enabled, the feeder will stop, the slurry will stop. It won't allow any more in until something comes out, so it keeps it safe. This pump here pumps out to the slurry separator the exact same way. We'll come back to the separator in a few minutes, but it's off the level of the tank, and it works by itself. And this network of pipes in the back, this is the heating system. So we take the heat from the engine that we'll see after a little while. The hot water from that, basically the cooling system, rather than having a radiator on the front or whatever it is, the hot water from that, which is about 80 degrees, 85 degrees, comes across through a pipe network into here, into this system here. So as you see, we have 4 stainless steel pipes going into the primary tank. They run around in a loop the whole way around the tank, and they're pumping hot water at 80 degrees into that tank.
So it's basically like a boiler, you could say, with the coil in it.
Yeah. It's like an underfloor heating system kind of, but it's on the side of the walls.
It's on the inside of the wall in the tank.
Yeah, exactly. 4 rails of pipes going into it. This one here is only 2. The reason being it's already heated going into the secondary tank. So it should be coming in there at 48 degrees. That works. So we have temperature sensor in the tank. Our differential again is 2 degrees, so it's between 49 and 47. So when the tank hits 47, this pump will come on and pump the hot water into the tank, and when it hits 49 the pump will shut off and any excess heat is put up to a radiator on the roof. So this point here is a sampling point. So every month we take samples here of the digested from the primary tank, and that basically tells us the health of the digester. With an agricultural plant, I suppose the fact that we don't change our feedstocks too much in terms of silage, slurry and the amount we feed, generally you don't see too many mad fluctuations, but you could see a spike in ammonia if the nitrates was very high in the grass, which we test for just in case, but you would see that. And the dry matter in the tank, I suppose, you're always watching the dry matter in the tank to see if you're feeding too much, too little, and there's a ratio then, so it's the FOS tax, basically how hungry or how overfed the plant is. So we're always looking for the sweet spot of 0.3. We're actually below that in this plant because the plant is so big, we can feed so much more, so we're all sitting at 0.2, but you're trying to not underfeed it that the bugs are hungry and trying not to overfeed it that there's too much there and they're kind of getting overdone with themselves. So.
Do you have to feed bugs into the plant then?
No.
Or is it kind of once you do it once, if everything's going right itself?
Yeah, the way we started here was we were lucky in this area there's so many digesters, so we call it seed. So we brought digestate in from other plants for over a month, kept adding into it, and then we started feeding our own feedstocks into that. And once that biology started, it's been there since. We've done nothing to upset it, thank God. If you do, it's a big job. You have to take it back out. You have to clean the tank out basically and start again from scratch. We've never fed anything other than silage and slurry here. No additives, no nothing. It's the most basic, simple plant you can run, and our biology has been really, really consistent, I suppose.
Slurry is really important for the bugs as well, because it's like coming out of a cow as well. So. So
it's taking the same bugs out of a cow and refreshing
so that's why slurry is important to these things.
But it's not good for biogas yield or returns. So like if you took a ton of silage and a ton of slurry, you'd have 7 times more energy out of your ton of silage than you would your ton of slurry. But you have the same cost of transporting it in, you have the same cost of transporting it out, you have to find more land for your digestate, everything goes with it. So for us, it's really good for our biology. It's a relatively cheap feedstock, but you need to get it local. You need to get it in fairly cheap, and it needs to be high dry matter. And some slurry can up to 40 cubes of biogas per tonne, some can have 10. The unit here, although it looks really small, it's doing a really important job. It's called a desulfurization unit. You know the H2S in gas that kills you, the dangerous part of the gas. So, we would have a small percentage of that in our biogas, and that is also really bad for our engine that makes electricity. So it takes the lubrication out of the oil. So for us, we need to try and keep that level as low as we can. And there's kind of 2 ways we do it here. We use desulfurization in the digester to lower it as much as we can inside the digester, and then we have a carbon filter which we'll show after a while, which kind of finishes the job off. But what we do here is we inject a really small bit of pure oxygen into the digester at all times. When it goes inside, it causes a reaction inside the tank, and it causes the sulfur in the gas to form into a molecule or a solid form. It's like a sulfur powder, and it creates like a stalagmite in the tank. And over time, the stalagmite gets bigger and bigger, and eventually it drops off and falls into the digestate as a solid lump of sulfur. And digestate is really high in sulfur. So everyone's buying 18.5, 12 plus S.
Plus S.
Everything's plus S.
Everything is plus S now. Yeah.
We have S here in the tank. yeah. That was the first cut this morning now.
That was the first cut
of the year. Yeah, so we're up on top of the digesters here now, the minute in between the two tanks. So this is our primary digester. Marina's setting up the light to have a gawk in. So, the yellow stuff you see there is the sulphur that's basically bound to the timbers. So there's a full timber roof inside the tank, and that's basically acting like a filter or a gauze, and the gas has to go through the timber roof to get up to the top, and the sulphur sticks to that. And as soon as the sulphur creates a big enough static mite, it'll drop into
it. Just drops in, and then it goes back into it.
Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah.
Like just the sheer amount. Like it just goes to show, like when you tell a lad, you know, to watch out for the gas in the slurry, you have no visual.
No.
That's a visual for how much gas.
Yeah. And we create a very small amount of it. Like we have these gas alarms here.
I was listening to the beeping there, and I was thinking that's what that was.
If it beeps, mobile phone. If it beeps really fast, run.
So that's measuring the amount of
methane, H2S, oxygen in the area. So if you know oxygen, get out, because there's no oxygen for breathing. That's one. And then I suppose H2S is the one you have to be careful for. So the slurry gas. There's always a potential it's around the site, unless there's a leak or something we won't see it. But we'd have very low levels in the digester anyway. We'd around 100 ppm. Like it'd be enough to probably kill you if you went in. I'll give you an example. Actually, building another site away from here, and just starting the job off. We're actually just starting the civils on the plant, and we had a 20-foot container as an office, and I was doing something on the laptop inside, and I always carry one of these. I had it in the bag, it's my laptop bag, and just working away, and next thing the alarm started going off, and I thought the battery was going to die in or something. That's straight. The one I had was a really good one. Like, so I went in and had a look at it and said, "Hi, alarm." Something going on here now. So I went out to the door of the container and I looked across, and the guy was mixing slurry in the slatted house probably 40 metres away from me. Yeah. And I said, there's something going on here. So I went over kind of towards and shouted at him, because I could see he was in the tank, mixing it all around. And I shouted at him, come out. And by the time he came out to me and I was looking in, the cattle started dropping the shed. 28 cattle dropped dead in the shed that day. Jeez. And I didn't have the thing.
If you hadn't that
he was
to
dead.
Tell him to come out, that was another statistic.
So pure luck. So you never know. Yeah. So every farmer should have
every contractor, anyone who's at slurry should have one.
Should have one of them. Yeah. Like, it's unbelievable. And I think every shed should have one. Being honest with you. Yeah. Have a fixed one on the wall in every single shed. Exactly. Yeah. They seem dear, like, but Jesus, your life is worth a lot more than €200. Like, that's it's one thing. It has to be like so. Definitely, I think every farmer should have one of them. Yeah. You've seen inside that tank. That one is always a lot thicker, more consistency, I suppose, more soupy like than this one here, because when it gets to this stage here, the bugs have broken down most of the silage at this stage. So it's like more of a liquid.
It's that the bugs are broken down, so this is more like a juice than a liquid. I don't know if you can see in there, but so you can see the sulphur again on the top, so you should be able to see a small bit of it. Just you can see it stirring there. So there's only 2 paddle mixers in this tank because it's a secondary tank, so it is more liquidy versus the 3 in the primary tank. They are equalisation pipes there that mixes the gas. And then these are single membrane rubber roofs that are kept up by the way they're set up is like it's like a groove like that, and the roof sits in it, and then there's like a bicycle wheel along the outside of it that keeps it airtight. So anaerobic digestion means the absence of oxygen, so there can't be any oxygen getting in and there can't be anything getting out, so that's why they have to be airtight, sealed.
It's like 80% of our gas is made in the primary. As you can see, it's fairly full. We take our gas from the secondary. Reason being is it's cleaner, so the gas has to come from the primary up through the roof, through the filter, across here again, and back down through the timbers again, and basically cleans it for a second time.
Right. Also, so the gas from there goes through the pipe, back under the timber, up through it, and then
back down to the engine then again.
Back down to the engine.
And it mixes with this gas from here. So it's generally a cleaner type gas that we get by the time we get it down below.
So the equalisation pipes, that's to stop that from... Because if it was equal from that pump, self-pressuring into that, they'd both be the same height.
The pressure is so minimal that it actually doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's really, really small. Like when you put your hand on it, like it's just... it's nothing. It's really, really small pressure, like it's tiny. So it just kind of naturally forces its way through, and that gas there is just what's being produced in that tank. These units here then are over and under pressure devices, so if we produce too much gas and we can't use the gas we have in the engine, first point to go is the flare, which we'll come to in a few minutes. So we'll flare off any excess gas, which we shouldn't do because that's revenue down the drain for us. It doesn't make any sense. So But if the likes of we're doing engine maintenance where you can't use the gas, we will have to flare off the gas.
Yeah.
So in the event that we don't flare and that the engine isn't using the gas and these tanks are filling up, this is called the over and under pressure device. So basically there's a strap here that if the roof exceeds the limit, it'll pull this weight up and allow the gas out just to vent, just to stop from blowing up. And the same way, the other way, if we had no gas and the tanks are completely empty, rather than the engine running and sucking the roof in, it's self-destructing itself, it'll let the water into the tank and then oxygen can go back in and then the oxygen will shut the engine off. So thankfully we've never had to use it, but it's just a backup just in case.
It's just a backup. So the engine will, if for some reason the gas just wasn't produced enough or the engine was running too hard or something went wrong, the engine will actually suck it.
Oh, it'll keep sucking as long as, it'll suck as long as, how do I say it? It'll keep sucking unless something, it'll suck unless something...
It makes for a good clip at the very start. Yeah, quick laughing.
I'll be fired now.
Whether you like it or not.
The engine will keep sucking as long as there's gas there, but if anything goes wrong, so if there's too much oxygen in the gas, the engine will stop. If there's too much pressure, there's loads of sensors down that engine, but basically, if anything kind of is off the charts, it'll stop the engine. But just in case, for any reason, it won't.
It's just the safety of the safety.
Yeah. This is the flare, the safety flare here now. It's a bit bigger than what you'd...
Small, far away.
Yeah. you don't need it that big. If it was a tenth the size of that, it'd be plenty good, but it's what we ended up with. But I suppose there's a conception out there that we burn... there's going to be a big flame shooting this thing all the time, and you see it like an oil rig or something. But
I think that's where the idea comes from. They see the oil rig and they always see it burning off the gas they don't want.
We don't have that issue here. Any gas that we create here, we want. So that flare is lit once or twice a year for a couple of hours. If we're doing maintenance in the engine that we can't use the gas, we light it for a couple of hours. Rather than releasing biogas and emissions into the air, we'll burn off the gas, which cleans it up and puts in. There's no smell, no noise. But that's just a safety feature that we have. Enclosed flares. So basically the flame is actually at the bottom, just above where them fins are. The flame is down there, so you never actually see the flame.
Yes,
that's all contained, and so safety is a big thing on them. There's loads of safety switches, and stay well away from that when it's going.
Doesn't do anything to the winds or anything either. The winds are still here.
Yeah, won't kill them. No. So I suppose we'll follow the flow of the digester. So we start at the start, the feedstocks. It's coming through the two digesters, and now we're coming to the end product, I suppose, where the liquid comes out. So that pump that we seen inside that I said was coming to the separator.
Yes.
That's pumping up this unit here on the frame, which is our slurry separator. The silver galvanised tank up on top, that's the buffer tank. So the slurry or the digestate is pumped up to that tank. That separator runs, and basically there's a sieve inside that, and it squeezes the juice out of the slurry. So the liquid falls outside the sieve and down into the storage tank here.
Yeah.
And the solids falls down into this bunker here. So in terms of volume, it's probably about 10, 15, 20% of our volume comes out in solids, depends how dry or wet you make it, and the rest of the liquid goes into the storage tank here. For us, the reason we do it, I suppose, is we're saving 15% of our storage capacity. We're actually taking most of the solids out of the tank, so in terms of mixing storage, that we don't have a big crusty layer on top of the tank. And then for spreading as well, with the less equipment, that we're not getting any blockages. It's really the liquid in there.
In there, like you hook the pump to it and away you go.
Yeah, it's just like cow dung.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Like, a lot of it is. So the majority of that would be phosphorus and potassium, and then the nitrogen in the ammonia form goes that way. Digestate compared to slurry, then the nitrogen in the digestate is about 85% available, versus in slurry the nitrogen is only maybe 50. And same with the phosphorus and potassium is higher. It's higher than it is in slurry. So like it's a great job. So if we have low index P soils, we usually plough a bit of that in or spread a bit of that in with a muck spreader at the back end of the year, and then anything that has higher indexes, you use the liquid. Yeah, the Republic liquid fraction will go through like a nutrient recovery system. So it's going through like a boiler basically. So it boils it up, and at 85 degrees, and in a vacuum, the nitrogen is stripped out of the slurry, and then it's separated into like an ammonia only liquid. So it's between 8 to 25% nitrogen only. So it's just an ammonia liquid form that can be injected into the ground using like a coltan spreader, and then the other product out of it is the phosphorus and the potassium, which can be mixed back in with the solids and ran through a dryer, and create a pellet can be made out of it.
Yes.
So that's down the line, and that's how the Republic will probably set up for more so around the nutrients. So like I said, up here it was set up to feed it, so there was 500 acres to feed it, whereas in the Republic it'll be the land bank that can take it.
Yeah.
Rather than what can feed it.
Take full soil samples of the whole farm and do the full nutrient management plan based on what we have. And figure out what we can. So we can use in this farm, we're lucky, it's all at index 2s, 3s. Yeah. We can spread nearly all of what we have here. A local tillage farmer takes any excess we have. But, I suppose that's down to the management that we be very careful of what we bring in.
Yeah, because if you fed it too rich, then it becomes a problem to get rid of it on the other end.
The most of the waste products are high in nutrients, as Matthew said, it's about managing the land to be able to take the nutrients back. That's the key part of that. And that's one thing that we're very focused on as well.
The full management. It's not just managing this, but it's managing the land that's feeding this and the feed that's feeding it to feed everything and try and balance the books, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about balance. It's all about nutrient balance.
The way we spread the digester here in this farm is. The guys hook up their Buil System here. There's about 200 acres in a block around here, so they'll set up the pumps here and the pipes, and they'll pump it all across all the land locally. And that works really well. We have a flow meter on the unit, and then we do our NP and K analysis on the digester before we spread. We know exactly what's put on it for the year, so we can go back to our nutrient management plan. This is what we said we do, this is what we've done. And it's also in terms of, I suppose, the overall sustainability of the plant, you need to know what's going back out. The guys then, I suppose, for the longer draws, and it's away from here, we have the tankers, so they have a 4,500 and a 4,000 gallon tanker. They use them on the road, and they fill into this tank here with the low ground pressure tyres.
So overhead boom into that.
Into that one.
Yes,
and some farms, in other places, we have a Doda pump on the front. We can pump it into the
the sludgigator.
So you've got options for both.
So you basically the farm it's fully self-sufficient in all the work it needs to do itself. And basically any kind of form.
This job is to have your own, because you can do it when you want, and there's such a big land bank, it's important to be able to go out when you want.
The two biggest jobs you see here is silage and slurry, and as you can see around the place, they're geared up for silage and slurry. The shiny metal syndrome in a big way. But you kind of have to set up, because the way I suppose Ireland is the last number of years is the weather windows are so tight. For silage and slurry, this year we didn't even get digested out in spring. We got very, very little, and that tank is full to capacity. So we're under a bit of pressure to get going. But you really, the day the weather comes,
you need to be.
You have to be able to go.
So then that's the pile of digestate then ready to.
We'll go over there, Siobhan.
Go out.
This is a solid digestate. We thought we'd have it ploughed in by now, but the way the weather has gone, they haven't really done as much reseeding as planned. So we have a fair bit of stuff there. So that's basically all there's in that is grass and slurry is mixed through. It's around 30% dry matter, that stuff, and we hope to plough it into any crops that we plant this year.
So this is used for growing just crops or any reseeding. Is all that's ploughed in, it's not put on grass.
No, some of what we do in the back end. In the back end we spread it because it allows time for the winter to break it in. But this stuff is unbelievable for worms. If you put that in a pile in a field and give it a kick, the worms will be absolutely flying through it.
So the likes of this, can an organic farmer?
It's tricky.
That's a tricky one, is it?
Like all these things, it's tricky.
It's all reactive legislation, because there's none of these in the Republic yet, as in agriculture.
Yes,
in the Republic.
It's something that hasn't.
It hasn't. We haven't got there yet.
On the farm, is there any fertilizer bought in?
Probably buy in about 10% of our fertilizer requirement every year, our nutrient requirement every year, and that's straight nitrogen. The one thing we lose here is nitrogen. We don't lose any P or any K as long as we do everything right. The way we lose nitrogen is out through volatilization, through the tanker spread and that thing. But
it's the ammonia loss is where you're losing the nitrogen and then you're replacing that then.
So basically, we spread a bag of urea for every cut. That's the way it works. And then we're harvesting 4 cuts of silage a year. We're harvesting 15 tons of dry matter per hectare. So the return for a bag of nitrogen isn't too bad.
So it's good.
We also yield measure as well. So before we cut, we grass measure to make sure we know it's double-edged sword. You know what's coming into the pit, and you know what you have for the year, and then you know what's come off the ground, so you know what you need to replace.
There's a hell of a lot of science. But just in the making sure that guess what needs, making sure it's all cut, making sure nutrient management plans, the feed stocks.
Well, the thing we say is you can't manage what you don't measure. So it just to make sure everything is right, you measure everything you can.
Circular.
You grow the silage, feed the plant. The plant makes digestate to spread back on the ground to grow the silage to feed the plant. That's it. It's the loop.
Electricity between.
Yeah, and then you get electricity as well. Yeah.
So the gas then, the biogas that comes off the digester comes through a network of pipes down to this unit here, and basically for another word, it's an air conditioning unit or a cooler, and it cools the gas down. So if you take the gas coming out of the digester, it's really wet, dirty gas. It's full of moisture. So we take it down here and we cool it down to 8 degrees. And when you do that, the moisture in the gas, the vapour, turns into a droplet, and the droplet then falls to the bottom and flows through that small stainless steel pipe and down into there's a condensate trap down here and up into the storage tank. So basically we dry the gas that way. And then when you dry the gas, you heat it back up again to about 22, 25 degrees, and it goes through this green tank at the back. That's the carbon filter tank.
Yes.
It's like an air filter, but it takes out the H2S. It goes through beads of carbon and takes the H2S out of the gas. At that stage, the gas should be relatively clean, ready to go for the engine.
So for the gas, when it's collected off that, I suppose that's what I forgot to ask when we were over there. So the gas comes to the top into that frame,
the dome,
and is there a diaphragm to push it out then?
And it's its own pressure. Yeah, so it's its own pressure to bring it to here. So it's really small pressure. It's like 0.5 a millibar. It's just enough to lift that roof, and that'll bring it as far as here. And then we've this blower here that blows in. That's like the fuel pump that blows into the engine. So we should have got the gas when the bugs make the gas inside the digester. It'll be made in the slurry. The mixing will allow the gas to come to the surface. It's the gas that holds them rubber roofs up and down.
Oh, so that rubber roof, if there was nothing in it, it'd be flat. Would just collapse.
Yeah, it'd be flat.
So it's the gas that's extracted is keeping that up, and that's just whatever pressure it generates. Then is enough to get the gas from there. To here.
And that tells us, I suppose, how much gas we're producing. That's like our fuel gauge. So
your fuel gauge is the roof. You can see the difference. Your primary, she's stretched out, and then your secondary, the roof is that much flatter.
That's our fuel gauge. And
it's a good visual,
It allows us, from the cameras, then we can see what gas we actually have on site. So from Sligo, I can turn up and down the engine to suit. If we're gas starting to drop, we can pull the engine back a little bit. And, so once the gas comes through the system here, I suppose it's all cleaned up and ready for use in the engine. I suppose people ask, what's the difference between what we're doing here and what we do in the Republic? In the Republic, we all talk about biomethane. In the north, we talk about biogas. So we take the raw biogas that comes off the digester. It's around 55% methane, 42% CO2, and the rest is H2S and different contaminants. We use the raw biogas in that engine as a fuel. That engine there, it's a 1200 horsepower engine running a generator on the front, but we make electricity out of it. That's the way the incentive is in the north, that's the way we're paid, and that's what works. It's very simple, very basic. In the south, there's no need for extra electricity. So we have wind, solar, all the different generation. They don't really want us on the electricity grid, so they're looking at gas. Those industries that can't decarbonise through electricity or using a lot of heat, they need to use gas, because the only way you create big heat is with gas. So if you take the biogas and split it, the CO2 and the methane from each other, and take the methane to one side, as long as it hits 99.4% methane, it's in the same energy value as a natural gas. So it's the exact same as natural gas. As long as you add the smell to it, it's natural gas. So you can use that into the national gas grid, you can use it for transport, you can use it for an awful lot of different things. And then you take the CO2 aspect of it and use that in the likes of food, in the likes of, say, putting bubbles in beer, use it for glass houses.
Carbonated drinks and that.
Yeah. And they're also looking at the SAF at the minute, sustainable aviation fuel. So the only CO2 that you can use to create that is biogenic CO2, and the only way really, I suppose, affordably to make biogenic CO2 is through biogas and capturing CO2 from the air into a crop, capturing the gas and using it again. So, well, everyone looks at the scale of these plants in the north, and why can't we build these in the Republic? And I suppose it comes down to economics at the end of the day. Up here we make biogas, and these size plants work; they pay for themselves. In the north, they want biomethane, and to put biogas into biomethane, you have to go through a piece of equipment that is really, really expensive, but it works at scale. So to buy a small biogas upgrader, it's probably €1 million. And to buy a big one, it's 1.5. And you're as well off buy the big one at 1.5 and pay it back a lot quicker. And I suppose to buy the big one, you need the bigger plant and everything.
To be able to get the most efficiency out of it.
And it's the same thing for the nutrient recovery system that we spoke about earlier. So a small one is $1 million. Like for this plant, it might be $1 million, and a big one might be $1.2 million, something like that.
For the likes of this plant here behind us, what would the cost of it be for the 500 kilowatt CHP?
We built this one in 2018. I suppose materials are a lot cheaper back then, everything was a lot cheaper, but at the time this was about 2.3 million.
2.3?
Yeah. If you were to build it today, roughly around 2.8 to build this size plant. For what we envisioned in the south, we're closer to 16 million.
Yeah,
big difference.
Big plants.
Yeah, they're big difference.
So this is a 500 kilowatt, and the ones in the south with us,
it goes to
they're
gas.
looking at 20 gigawatts, isn't it?
We're closer to 40, yeah.
40 gigawatts.
Yeah. So in terms of looking at it, I suppose the size of tanks, there'll be 2 of the primary tanks, 2 of the secondary tanks, and 2 of the storage. That's the way it's going to work. They do take up a pretty big footprint, and I suppose they do take a lot to feed them, but it's the way the economics work. You know?
It's the economics that's being presented to us by the government subsidies. At least the government could decide to subsidise smaller operations.
Yeah, if they decided to do it,
wanted to.
Yeah, and more people get involved that way. You know, that's, I suppose, our business is operating, building, designing digestors. We don't want them that big. You know, it's just we have to make them pay at the end of the day. Like, I'd love personally to build these size plants all over Ireland. They're so easy to manage, easy to run, but they just don't stack up, unfortunately.
Yeah,
you know,
and the likes of a plant like this, for someone who has a land bank and maybe a contractor can get into it relatively handy compared to the bigger plants.
Yeah, it's everything. The land bank, the financials of actually getting the money out to build it. There's not many farmers going to get 15 million out of the bank.
Yeah.
They want much to back it up. So, and we always get the piece. Farmers have to be able to build these, and why can't farmers do it? We're all for that. We're the 5 of us are farmers at home.
Yeah.
That's why we're at this. And we'd love to the same way. But like I said, no farmer will get 15 million euros out. But at the same time, no farmer wants the risk of building something worth 15 million that they cannot have no experience in running, can go completely arse. As you've seen, the amount that is involved in this citron, it's massive. So we feel, I suppose, the model that we run, we'll go through in a minute, but there's no risk for the farmer. But these won't happen without the farmer.
Yeah.
That's the key part. Without grass, without slurry, we don't make gas.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It will not happen without farmers.
Farmers are essential. They're essential to it.
We're here with Marcus now. So Marcus is the operator and of the plant here.
Yeah.
So since the plant has gone up, what improvements or what have you seen from working with them and operating the plant?
Yeah, it's good. Increased our land capacity a whole lot. We've pushed the farm on a good bit. Yes, there's problems, daily problems with it, but sure, you know yourself, you still have to keep going. You know?
Sure, say no matter what you're at, you're always going to encounter some problems.
It's farming, but we do all our own silage and all our own slurry. Try to do as much and keep the cost down as well as possible.
Yeah.
We run the plant. We feed it twice a day. Keep one end empty and one end full, and keep feeding it. So.
Have you many working full time on the farm then to be able to run the operation?
On the farm is myself, my father, my uncle, and my cousin Chris. But Chris and I would take mostly to do with the running of the plant.
Yeah.
My dad and Colin would be working the cattle and doing that end of it.
So when you go at silage, then there's the 4 of you there.
There's the 4 of us. We're all work as a team and keep the thing going. So we can send the mowers out and kick out right in behind. And then Colin, he's buckrake man, so he likes doing that. So, yeah, works well.
So since it's been built, you've seen a good improvement then on the farm and the finances.
Yeah. Well, the digester would beat the cattle, definitely would. We've pushed the stock numbers as well. With getting that bit of extra land has helped us push the stock numbers too. So it's all worked well. It's tied in well between each other.
Just on the farm, what are your beef farmers?
Yeah, beef we have around 80 pedigree Limousin cows, and then maybe 50 head of black and white calves.
Yeah,
that we buy every year. So we're sort of running about 200 head of cattle every year.
And you're finishing everything from the cows and finishing the rear calves.
Everything's finished.
As bulls, bullocks.
Bulls mainly, and then heifers. A lot of the limb heifers we brought in, replacements. We'll maybe sell a batch of 20 every year. Works well. Digester's a good add-on. Fertilizer usage is way reduced. Or the digestate out of its rocket fuel for growing grass.
So everything feeds into each other nicely and the whole unit just pulls together nicely.
Well. Carbon AMS, Matty and Rain there, they come in. They measured the grass all through last year. They keep an eye on it, test nitrogen after it's cut. So say we cut the first cut last year around middle of May, or twice before it's been cut again for second cut, it'll be measured, see how much grass we have. We produced around 15 tonne of dry matter per hectare last year, so done well. So
Carbon AMS look after all the micro managing of
they keep an eye on all the crops right through. The guys are here on site once a week checking, so it works really well. So it does.
Yeah, so the CHP that we have there, the engine, so I suppose CHP stands for combined heat and power, so we're making electricity and we're making heat.
Yeah.
So basically when you put energy into a CHP, about 55% comes out as heat and 45% comes out as electricity.
Yeah.
That's the way they are. And that's why I suppose they're not overly efficient, because you're only getting 45% out as electricity, and the rest of it, unless you have use for the heat, is kind of wasted. So we use the heat to heat the digesters. Summertime, we have too much heat. Wintertime, we're probably just about enough. Basically, that's a 1200 horsepower MTU or Rolls-Royce engine.
It's a Rolls-Royce engine?
It's a Rolls-Royce engine, yeah. So it was put in, it was a prototype engine actually from Rolls-Royce. It was our first biogas engine. It's 39,000 hours in that engine, still on original pistons, original liners, as new heads alright, but it's been a pretty good engine now in fairness.
Yeah.
It's a V8 engine, and there's a 500 kilowatt CHP or generator on the front. The engine turns at 1500 revs all the time, and the generator just ups and downs to suit, so we can do our set points here. We can up and down the engine to where we need to be on our SCADA system.
The engine is always running at 1500 RPM, so when you put the pull on the generator, she just starts burning more, but she's still running at that 1500.
Yeah, exactly. You've seen the big oil sump in the corner.
Yeah.
That's something Rolls-Royce have patented with. It's an extended sump. So there's 1400 litres of oil in that tank. And the way they work is it's drip fed new oil all the time. So they're taking in a small bit of new oil all the time and taking away a small bit of old oil. And they say you get an extra 20 to 30% life out of the oil in the engine.
Oh.
So you'd want it at the price of the oil for that thing. But you see the heating pipes along the walls?
Yeah.
They're all the pipes that basically take all the heat from the engine at 85 or 90 degrees and send it to the digester, or send it over to the heaters and the coolers on the roof that basically cool it down like a normal engine, I suppose. We're going to the SCADA here. The control system for the plant, we actually developed this ourselves. Every single machine or every single piece of equipment on the plant can be operated through the system. This is fully accessible on our phones. As long as you have internet, you can access this on your phone. I suppose start from the start, this is the pre-pit, this is where the slurry goes into the plant. So the guys fill that pre-pit that we've seen earlier on and set their times up here. So 4 times a day, they basically feed 5 cubic metres, and their end goal is to feed 20 cubic metres. So far today, they've fed 10, they'll feed another 10 throughout the day. In terms of solid feedstocks, this is the feeder here. So we can see so far today, he's fed 18.7 tonnes since 12 o'clock last night. We're aiming to feed 35 tonnes, as you can see there in the bottom. Every 20 minutes here, he's feeding 800 kilos.
Yeah.
Now, that'll up and down depending on how things are going for the day. If there's a blockage and we lose a couple of hours feeding, he'll ramp it up, or if it's getting ahead of himself, he can slow it down. And the guys generally come in the morning, fill the feeder up with 20 tonnes of feedstocks, run it for the day, 5 o'clock top it up with another 20 tonne, and finish off whatever they need to feed for the rest of the day. Temperature and pressure sensors all throughout the plant. Primary digester here, so the first tank, you can see it's at 47 degrees. Level here is 6.8 metres high. It's on each cut mixer, and that reason for that is it tells you the consistency in the digester.
Oh, so that's the higher dampage, the harder it is to turn.
So if we've seen that getting above 20, we'll actually up the slurry. You know,
to try and water it down.
Yeah. So over here we have the secondary digester, the second tank. So again, you have your level. So we're 6.96. Our 2 paddle mixers, because in this tank the tank is a lot thinner and there's not as much pressure on the mixers. Over here is our separator. So when the separator is called on, when the level reaches 7 meters here, it will call on this pump and this separator to work in sequence and lower the level down to the set points. We're 1 mixer here in the storage tank. We have our compressor, which basically controls the pneumatic valve in the feeding line, and it also controls the pressure to hold the roof in place. Up to the engine. This is the money-making part of the business. So as you can see, our engine is running at 100% load, so we're creating 500 kilowatts of electricity onto the grid every hour, and that is enough to power around 1,200 homes. So that works away 24/7 as much as it can. You can see here today we've generated 16.14 million kilowatts of electricity in 4 years. And every day we get a report that basically tells us how we operate for the day. I'll take that every week and put that into a nice simplified report to an investor and say this is how the plant ran for the week and this is your percent uptime.
You see, with all the pressure sensors, all the sensors, all the meters, there's so much data coming from these plants alone, never mind the next phase of what we do as well. So we're looking to set up a database that's going to be able to take all this data, and then we can monitor it to get the trends across time, as well as feed into a machine learning technology as well. So this is to do with the nutrient management of the farm. It's the farm there, you can see it there. So it's keep everything completely traceable. So they're all the land parcels. There's a few more scattered around the place. They're most land parcels feeding into the plant. So we have soil analysis for each of them parcels. We go and measure the grass on each of them parcels, so we know what's coming off and we know what needs to go back on to grow the grass. So they're all GPS tracked, extremely traceable. And again, that's more data that can feed into the database. This is the NIR that we use to sample the silage every week. So that's probably an ideal silage for now. So I would say 28% dry matter, DMD of 77, ME of 11.63. Like, that's perfect. More data. So more data to feed into the plant. That's coming in weekly. That's annually. That's daily. So there's a load of different things coming in all the time. So
I suppose the key then IR is so handy for us that we can bring it around with us, go to a plant and see a load of silage and test that and say, well, where does this come from? If you're going to buy in silage, you can go to a clamp, get a sample, and it's not taking 2 or 3 weeks to go to a lab. Like, if they're in 5 minutes, you can say, this is it. We use a lot of NIR and this system here and harvesters and slurry, all that kind of thing, and we're looking to create all this data and take telematics from tractors. So find out, people always say to us, how is that sustainable? Like, you're burning diesel up and down the road, these big tractors and everything. I suppose like every process has a cost, but I suppose you take the whole picture in. We have to see from the seed we use, the fertilizer we use, the diesel we use, how far we transport it. Every single part of the process has to end up in a 70% reduction in savings. So we're going using, like, at the minute we're looking at tractor manufacturers, getting the information off the tractor, what data in the field, how long they were in the field for, what were they doing, what did they apply, and have it all that. Some guy or someone that buys a cubic meter of gas from us says, well, where did this gas come from? A bit like buying chicken or something. So, well, actually, this was the farm it came from. This was the field it grew off. That field grew X, Y, and Z. The reason it grew that because the soil nutrition was here, because we applied this, and this is how much diesel went into burning that, and you can go the whole way back. It's all factual. It's not kind of made up as you go along. So I suppose in these plants, obviously safety is a huge thing, and I suppose we take it very serious in all our plants, because we have a lot of people working on them. You're close to houses, close to everything, so we do take a serious emphasis on it. In terms of this plant, I suppose what we have here, we have a fire alarm that goes through all the buildings in the plant, so if there's any smoke picked up anywhere, we have a fire alarm that's linked up to our SCADA, so if there's a fire alarm of any kind, it'll email us to tell us. The next one over is a gas alarm, so it basically tells us if there's any methane in any of the buildings. So if any pipe surrounding that is leaking methane, it's potentially an explosive atmosphere, so we get an alarm. As soon as that alarm goes off, once it hits the level, the engine shuts down, everything stops. Fire escape plans and emergency escape plans. Oxygen tanks here, so if for any reason, like the guy in the H2S, that the cattle went down, if he went down inside the tank, we use these kits here that we can put on, basically a small oxygen tank that we can get ourselves into an area that's not safe, I suppose, and get someone out and get them saved. And then we have these lads here, so these are the gas analyzers that we all wear on site, the operators, anyone on site. The level of CH4, the methane, the CO2, the oxygen, the CO, which is the carbon oxide, and the H2S. I suppose we have records of everything.
So novelist now.
It's like Harry Potter collection here. We've so health and safety wise, we have all the training records, all the certs, all the calibration certs, everything that's needed for the plant. So any training, any that kind of thing. We've maintenance records for every single machine on the plant. So the engine, the paddles, what we do across the whole plant. There's manuals there for every piece of equipment on the plant. So every machine is a full operator manual. If anyone needs to go back and have a look, they're all on site and they're all in an online form as well.
We've just finished up the tour here now. I just want to say a big thanks to Rian and Matthew for showing us around, and very interested in that. And for anyone who is interested in learning more, where can they get in touch with you?
You can get us on our website, carbonams.com, or follow us on Instagram at Carbon AMS.
Big thanks to the lads for showing us around. Very interesting, and something I think there is a future in for us in the south, but I suppose hopefully we'll have to wait and see what the government are going to give us. We're just on our way home now. So that is biodigester. I thought it was very interesting. I think there's great potential for biodigesters in the Republic. Now, we did go to the Renewable Roadshow, and based on what was said at that, it wouldn't inspire much confidence. Government aren't going to subsidise the right way. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Particularly when you look at Europe is doing a thing where near enough in every case it's a guaranteed minimum price or a top up on what you're getting. Whereas it's looking like the Irish government are going to give the capital grant. One of the big things that we seen, heard and smelled, and probably more so we didn't, there was no smell. I mean, nothing. If you're on a piggery, you know you're on a piggery. You could be in there and you just think you're on a farm. Like, even at that, there was very, very little smell. As the theory I put it down to is, if you can smell it, you're losing money, because the smell is in the gas and you're trying to catch all that gas. And noise, there was no noise. Like, it was nothing more than if you were on a farm. Like, really and truly, there was a thing of nothing on noise. Yeah, just a really tidy setup, so it is. There is one downside to biodigesters, and if you talk to anyone in the UK, they'll probably tell you about it. If it's put into air, when they're done in areas where there is high demand for fodder, it can increase land prices, it can increase fodder prices, it can offset livestock. It doesn't have to. System we seen in the Netherlands, which was government supported, just was generating off slurry, and that doesn't affect anyone. System like that is something I'd love to see as being viable in Ireland. It's not looking like it will be, because they're not going to support it. I still do think in the right areas, under the right circumstances, there can be a great future for farmers, particularly anyone who's in the dry stock sector, as you'd be able to push grass on or push fodder on, or anyone in the tillage sector looking for something a little bit more reliable than the price of barley, because it's fluctuating so much at the minute. It's very hard to make head nor tail of it, or any crop really. In the heel of the hunt, I think biodigesters, there's a future for them with us in the south. There is downsides, don't get me wrong. Everything has upsides and downsides, but I think if it's done right and put in the right locations, it will positively affect farmers. And I think that we need, as farmers, to be engaging with the likes of Carbon AMS and other companies that are working in this space, so that we can get it to suit us. If we don't engage, and if we're the wrong side of the fence, these things are probably going to happen anyways. But if we're the right side of the fence, we can make them suit ourselves. Big thanks to the lads from Carbon AMS, and to Rian and Matthew for showing us around, and for Marcus for having a few words on camera. I thought it was very interesting. Big thanks to the rest of his family. They brought us in for tea and sandwiches there, and it just filled the hole. That was greatly appreciated. Anyways, look, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Probably a long one. Hope you found it interesting, as me and Liv have. And look, I don't know what more to say, but anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any comments, and like that, as always, put them in the comments down below. You can discuss whether biodigesters or AD plants are going to be a positive or a negative for the farming industry for us. And you can trash it out down there. But anyways, we're going back to Longford, and maybe mow some silage. After seeing mowing going on, I am very, very keen to get the butterflies on and go knock the bare grass I have to knock. So we're going to on. Hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. Videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. Good luck.